Greetings, critters. Today we're going to be drawing some bugs while I talk about the obnoxious amount of nightmares I get. The earliest dream I can remember was when I was about 5 or 6. It's me and my parents driving down this barren road in the middle of the night and stopping at this, very specifically, a cotton farm, which I don't think I'd ever seen when I first had this nightmare, so I don't know how I knew how cotton grew. Anyway, a man steps out of this tiny cabin, and he is the creepiest, most pedophile-looking person you've ever seen. Like, immediately, I just knew I was not safe. My parents kick me out of the car, and I start crying and begging them to take me home with them. And this creepy-ass man comes over, grabs my shoulder, and waves my parents goodbye. And I so vividly remember looking out over this sea of malnourished children my age, and one of them just looks at me and goes, "You're not getting out of this. There's no escaping from this." Damn, that's heavy. The man leads me into his cabin, and there's a child inside, sweeping. And just as I'm trying to convince myself that it might not be as bad as I thought, they just kind of look at me like, "No, you're right. He is as horrible as he looks." And yeah, try to keep in mind I was like 5 or 6 when I first had this dream. So I'll let you make the assumptions about how my childhood was. I had this dream repeatedly over so many years, because every single time I thought it was over, every single time I forgot about it, it would come back and it would remind me, nope, still here. You are never gonna forget about this horrible, horrible nightmare. And that's why I try to make sure that I don't forget that this was something I was haunted by for years of my life, because I feel like if I try to put it past me, it will come back. And I don't really want to relive that. No thank you. And another horrifyingly traumatic nightmare I had repeatedly as a kid was, like, right in front of the Eiffel Tower. Very specifically. It was this tall-ass tower, and because I had it repeatedly, I knew what was going to happen, and I would beg my parents not to go into the tower, and they would just dismiss me. You go into the elevator, you sit down, and then it starts going up. But then it malfunctions, and the doors open, and there's this horrifying ghost girl telling us about how she was brutally murdered and abused and stuff like that. And then the elevator just starts going crazy, up and down and left and right and all the ways. In the end, the doors open, we see the family who abused the little girl. They jump into the elevator and kills us. I think some of you might be able to guess where this nightmare comes from. And I had this nightmare repeatedly for about 5 years, until I was 13, where we went to Disneyland, and I got on the Tower of Terror, a little scared, but in a good way, like when you're about to watch a horror movie and you're excited to get scared. I went on the ride, and I was like, oh my god, this is what I've been haunted by. This is literally my nightmare, step by step. Everything is exactly the same as it was in my nightmare. When I was 8 years old, I went to Disneyland. I went on the Tower of Terror and proceeded to have nightmares about it for the next 5 years. But because I was so little, I couldn't remember that I had been on the Tower of Terror. I forgot it was a ride, so I didn't understand why I was having these nightmares. And I only went on it because my parents forced me to, and that's why they wouldn't listen in the dream, because they didn't listen to my concerns in real life either. I just find it so funny that I could not remember anything else about this ride, except for the fact that it was in France. The fact that this tower is right next to the Eiffel Tower in my dream. My brain knew it was in France, and nothing else. And I have not had this nightmare since I went on the ride when I was 13. So, it's funny now. Most of my dreams are borderline lucid, so when I have a dream more than once, I'm able to remember, oh yeah, I know what's about to go down, but most of the time, I'm not able to change anything about the dream. Except for this one time. I'm part of this mafia group or something, and I have to get a hold of this giant Easter egg looking thing. But apparently the host knew we were coming, so he prepared this trapdoor, I stand on it, and he drops me into this, like, Alice in Wonderland type drop, but like with normal gravity. So there's tables sticking out of the walls, and I keep hitting everything on my way down. It honestly hurt really badly, and I was really scared the first time I had this dream. And after that, me and this person that I'm infiltrating with, who apparently dropped from a different, presumably much more pleasant place, we're running towards a harbor, and there's like a bunch of construction stuff around us. we jump onto a lower platform, and one of the guys was faster than the other two. So he jumps down after us. Right in this moment, a fucking anvil drops from one of the cranes, smashes his head in like a watermelon. It was very movie-esque, like getting rid of them one by one. It was great. But the second time, I wasn't aware that I was dreaming until I started falling. And then I was like, wait, I remember this dream. Like, I know this is gonna hurt like a bitch. So I managed to scoot myself into like the corner of the room, and I managed to not get hit by anything. I don't know how, but I was safe. Next, same thing happens. I meet up with my partner, and we start running from these guys. But this time, when the anvil drops, he doesn't die, and I'm pissed because, like, you had one job, and it was to die. How hard is that? So I pause time, and I go over to him. I pick up this anvil, and I just smash his brains in, and we keep running. But every time we reach the water, my brain doesn't really know what to do, so it just wakes me up. I never did find out if we escaped the other two. I have a lot of dreams where I get chased and people try to murder me, and I have to kill them in order to survive. And they would be kind of traumatizing if it wasn't for the fact that I know that I'm dreaming. So I'm just kind of having fun, honestly. Which doesn't seem healthy, but whatever. I had another dream where I land myself in the middle of a giant fight. I end up running away with a civilian family, but the boss of the other group chases us. It's kind of terrifying, honestly, but it's like, whatever. I have plot armor, I'm a main character. So I end up fighting him, and, well, obviously I can't have him finding out where we're gonna hide, so I kill him. And we're at this T-cross, where we have to turn right, because that's where their house is. So I get this genius idea, and I start dragging his dead body around, and the family's like, what are you doing? We have to leave. We don't have time for this. It's like, no, you don't understand, because if I hide him to the left, then his men are gonna find his body in the trees on the left road. Like, I tried to hide the body, but failed, so they're gonna go left, but we're gonna turn right. And they're like, you're so smart!
Bender, honey, we love you!
Shut up, baby, I know it!
I don't really like calling my dreams lucid, because despite me knowing that it's a dream, most of the time I don't feel like I'm in control. Like, I can't just be like, oh, this scenario kind of sucks, I'm just gonna, like, change it. I have to go through with it, but I can be, like, smart. If I've had a dream before, I can, like, slightly alter it. But I don't feel like in control, if that makes sense. Like, I don't feel like I'm moving my body like I am in real life. That's just kind of the image I have about how lucid dreams are supposed to be. Like, you're supposed to be fully in control, and you can just, like, completely change the scenario and, like, opt out of the dream if you don't like it. I just remembered another nightmare I had repeatedly, literally as I'm sitting recording this. It was me and my family driving in the woods, and all of a sudden my dad stops at the bottom of a hill, and it's like, we're gonna walk. What? Yeah, no, we're gonna walk. Why? I don't know, I just feel like it. Might be kind of fun, you know? So we get out of the car, start walking up this hill, and there's a house and a big wild yard full of biodiversity. And there's these big ass rocks with faces on them. And they start whispering to us, or maybe just to me, because I was apparently the only one who heard it, or seemed to care about it. But they start whispering things like, you're in danger, he sees you. What the hell? And then at some point, they start just being like, no, it's too late. You're gonna die. So I start being like, what the hell, guys? Can we go back to the car? And they're like, no, you're fine. Stop being so dramatic. Can you sense a theme in these nightmares of being dismissed by my parents? But whatever. I look to my left, into the woods, and there's this big-ass man with a shotgun staring at us. And at this point, I just kind of accept it. Like, we've been told it's too late by these mythical rocks that I can only assume are his past victims. We had the chance to leave, and we blew it. Somehow, dream how, we end up on either side of a riverbank. There are these sporadically placed rocks and bushes, roughly a meter apart. Now, I've had this dream multiple times. I know what to do, I know this guy's pattern, I know how to survive. So I'm like, okay, whenever he moves, we have to move. And my family's like, no, I don't want to do that, because I don't feel safe. I want to move when he's hiding. And I'm like, no, because when he's hiding, he's aiming his gun at us. We have to move when he's moving, so he can't point the shotgun at us and kill us. And the whole dream is just me trying to keep my family alive and them being like, nope, I'm gonna do it my way. And it's like, I've been here before. I've done this like 5 times. We always have this argument. It never worked. We never got to the other side. I have no idea what's on the other side of the riverbank, because the entire dream is just me yelling at my family and them being stubborn little assholes. And after like the 3rd time, I went to my parents and I was like, okay, if we're ever in a dangerous life or death situation and I say I know what I'm talking about, you listen, okay? And they were like, yeah, don't worry, we will listen to you. If you confidently tell us you know what we have to do in order to survive, we're gonna believe you. So I really appreciate my parents being willing to listen to me in life or death situations, because of a dream I had repeatedly where they didn't, and they were being idiots. Thanks, guys. Bye.